NAIC is the oldest state association. We were formed in 1871. 50 states, DC, and the 5 U.S. territories are members of the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. One thing to keep in mind when I talk about the NAIC, it is the state insurance commissioners, the leaders in each jurisdiction that have that regulatory authority. Those are the members of the NAIC. I work in the Kansas City office, and you see we have the NAIC as an organization, a support organization. We have 3 offices. The main office is in Kansas City. We also have one in New York City and then in Washington, D.C. In Kansas City, most of the employees there are tied to IT. So one of the transitions I've seen at the NAIC, I've been there for just over 28 years. We are supporting the states more and more on the IT side, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the products that the NAIC offers. We heard Director Nelson talk a little bit about NAIC models and guidelines. So those are some of the products that the NAIC members develop. So my role as staff is to support the NAIC members in those discussions and deliberations. I don't have any regulatory authority, but I help those commissioners and state regulators develop these guidelines and models. The kind of the highest level product we have at the NAIC is an NAIC model. I heard Director Nelson talk a little bit about adjusters and issues in marketplace with adjusters. The NAIC just adopted a revised Public Adjuster Licensing Model Act, and that was a model that I helped support. And states were noticing some problematic practices in the marketplace in terms of compensation, assignment of benefits issues, contractors that were really acting as roofers, but also acting as public adjusters. And so those are some of the issues that the states were facing in the marketplace. And that model was revised. So that's a good example of some of the products that the NAIC develops. What will happen with that model is now it's up to each individual state to determine whether or not they want to adopt some of those provisions in the model. I want to reference those models because when those models are adopted at the NAIC members are essentially pledging in good faith that they're going to take that model and that language back to their own state for further review by their legislature. And so that's why the models at the NAIC are really critical. I'm going to talk a little about the AI bulletin. So that's another product that the NAIC produces. So we have models, we have guidelines, we have model bulletins that are developed by the NAIC members, and then also handbooks and manuals. So the most familiar ones that you may have seen is the Market Regulation Handbook, the Financial Examiner's Handbook. There's also a State Licensing Handbook and a Product Filing Review Handbook. So those are some of the primary handbooks and manuals that the NAIC members produce on an annual basis. So they're updated on an annual basis. In terms of, I talked a little bit about the Kansas City office. So again, probably half the folks in the Kansas City office, maybe more than that, are on the IT side. So we have, as you see, 560 employees at the NAIC. I want to say when you look at the DC office, there's 30 employees there. And then in the New York office, probably talking about another 40 or 50 employees. So the bulk of the staff is in the Kansas City office. And again, of those staff members, most of those are going to be in the IT area. We have a annual budget of $163 million. So most of those database filing fees that's where the revenue is coming from, is from database filing fees at the NAIC. I get a lot of questions, where's all this money come from? So if you're involved in reg form filing, you're probably familiar with the system for electronic reg form filing. There's fees associated with that. producer licensing. So the NAIC has a nonprofit affiliate, the National Insurance Producer Registry. NIPR generates about $82 million a year in revenue. The NAIC shares that revenue with NIPR. So any individual who is licensed as an agent or broker, those licenses are going to be coming through and processed through NIPR. Appointments, terminations, all of those transactional, activities that occur in the agent broker market. Those transactions are going to be processed through NIPR. And then we also have the financial filings. So for those of you who are maybe on the financial side, any type of financial filing with a state insurance regulator is going to be processed through the NAIC. The NAIC also has resellers of that financial data. We resell that data on the financial side. So those are some of the key revenue streams that we have. Before I move on, any questions about just kind of the operational organizational structure of the association? Okay. So another question that's asked is, how does all this work, get accomplished? What's the process? The NAIC has a committee structure. So we have an executive committee. That is essentially the NAIC's board of directors. So they are kind of setting the agenda for the broader NAIC membership. They oversee within the internal committee, underneath the executive committee, the internal subcommittee of the executive committee. That committee is managing kind of the oversight of the NAIC organization, the staff of the NAIC, the support organizations at the NAIC. And so that's where that's kind of the higher level, again, the board of directors of the NAIC. And then you have the various NAIC committees. So you see there the life insurance annuities, the health insurance, the P&C committee, the market regulation and consumer affairs, financial condition, financial regulation standards, and then the international insurance relations committee. The new one that is, I'll talk a little bit about some of their initiatives, is the H committee, which is the cybersecurity, innovation and technology committee. So that's a recently added committee at the NAIC. The NAIC members are very interested in the technology aspects of the insurance industry, what's happening, how things are changing. And as Director Nelson mentioned earlier this morning, regulators want to see innovation. They want to see technology utilized, but there are certainly regulatory concerns and issues. They want to make sure that there's not adverse consumer impact on some of these new systems and technologies being utilized. So that's kind of how the work progresses through the NAIC membership. Those are the committees. Underneath all of these committees, you have various task forces and working groups. So at any time, you probably have 130, 135 working groups, task forces underneath each of these committees at the NAIC. The committees are comprised of 15 NAIC members. And so those are the voting members of the association. It's really work coming up through working groups back to the committees for formal adoption by the NAIC members, and then on up to the executive committee. Right. So here's a little bit about some of the priorities. I'm going to pull out some notes here. On the property casualty priorities, under the C committee, there's a homeowners insurance data call that is going through the committee process right now. There was a lot of discussion last year with the homeowners data call. I help support the market conduct annual statement data call. So if you're familiar with that, there's already data being collected on the homeowner side for market conduct purposes. So states are looking at this data to assess how companies are operating in the marketplace. The homeowners insurance data call is really a market intelligence data call. So the NAIC members are looking to collect additional data to better understand their market. What Director Nelson showed you earlier today, Missouri is a bit unique. They're already collecting a lot of information by zip code. The homeowners insurance data call that's being discussed at the NAIC is also based on zip code data. So the data elements at a very high level, premiums, policies, coverage amounts, losses, deductibles, that type of information will be collected, assuming the NAIC members adopt the data call and move forward with the implementation of the data call. Right now, the plan is to have that data call, at least the template, to have that finalized by the end of this year, and then have a data call issued in early 2026. So that will be kind of the timeline we're looking at if things progress through the NAIC membership as anticipated right now. The data call right now is out for public comment. So one of the things going back to the NAIC committee structure and how things are processed through the NAIC, everything is done in a fairly open process. So we have an open meetings policy. So the NAIC members are always looking for input from the insurance industry. They want to understand, how the regulatory policy may be impacting the insurance industry, and hearing from the insurance industry in terms of what data might be collected, might be useful for policy development. So that's an important piece that's going through the NAIC members right now. There's also an affordability and availability playbook. And if you look at this draft right now, it is an assessment of kind of current practices the various states have implemented in their market to address availability and affordability, primarily in the homeowners market. And so looking to learn. So our members are always looking to see what other states have implemented, to see how things are working, maybe some best practices that can be implemented in other jurisdictions. So that's what you're going to see currently in that affordability and availability tape. And then we also have a severe weather resiliency and mitigation group that's looking at hurricanes, severe convective storms, and really focusing on mitigation practices that states have implemented. So that is another, and all of these items are under a property casualty C committee. So these are the activities under that C committee, and then part of that mitigation piece. And I wanted to put up a reference to the Center for Insurance Policy and Research. So the Center for Insurance Policy and Research is somewhat of an independent research arm of the NAIC. And so the CIPR works with academics, they work with regulators, they may work with the industry to conduct research on various items within the insurance industry across all lines of insurance. The Center for Insurance Policy and Research, they now have a Center of Excellence on cat risk management. And primarily what they're doing underneath that Center of Excellence is providing technical training and expertise on cat models. So where the regulators are trying to understand the various cat models out there, the outputs, how they're developed, the CIPR, the Center for Insurance Policy and Research, is working with states on that effort. So that's a pretty important effort across the NAIC members with the CIPR and the Center of Excellence. So any questions on any of those items? Okay. And then the final slide I have is to talk a little bit about cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. Director Nelson mentioned the cybersecurity incident that what recently occurred with Erie. Uh, the state insurance regulators are working on a plan to help create a more coordinated effort in the event a company has a cybersecurity event, to create a more coordinated effort to address that cybersecurity event with the company. The regulators certainly understand when a cybersecurity event happens, a company is facing a lot of different issues and challenges, and the regulators are there. They want to work with the company to get them back up and running, and then work with the company to make sure that the consumers are properly protected in the event of a data breach. So we are currently working on a cybersecurity incident response framework. That's actually under Market Regulation and Consumer Affairs Committee. If you're involved in on the financial side, if you're involved in anything related to market regulation piece, what you'll see on the financial side, you'll see financial examiners perhaps looking at operations and management of an insurance company. But then once a cybersecurity event occurs, you're going to see the market regulators really kind of come in to assess the consumer impact. And then to the extent there's financial impact, the financial regulators will come back in as well. But on this particular piece, it's the cybersecurity incident response framework is more consumer facing. And what does a company do after a cybersecurity event to make sure that the consumers are not negatively impacted by that event? We also have, and I know we'd already mentioned, the model bulletin on the use of AI systems by insurers. So the NAIC members adopted that model in that bulletin in 2023. I think there's 24, there may be up to 26 states that have now adopted that model bulletin. Generally speaking, that model bulletin is reminding insurance companies regarding existing state statutes, regulations, rules, that the use of AI means to comply with those existing state statutes, regs, and rules. The model bulletin talks a bit more about companies having AI supervision program in place, having governance over those models that are used in the marketplace, identifying high risk models in the program, and then we talked. I know there's a question about third party vendors and some of the data that may be gleaned from third parties. That's also a really important piece for the regulators to understand what third-party vendors are operating in the marketplace and what data is being utilized. So that's what you're going to see in that bulletin. Now, since that bulletin was adopted, the NAIC members are now currently talking about an AI systems evaluation tool. And that tool is still being discussed under the big data working group. So there's a big data working group under that H committee, and they're going through that AI systems evaluation tool. We'll see where that goes this year. One of the, I guess, the four key areas of that evaluation tool is a state regulator may be looking to see how a company has quantified their AI use. So some companies may be using AI heavily in certain areas. Other companies may not be using AI as much. So that's kind of the first piece of that evaluation tool. The second piece is governance and risk assessment. So regulators will ask, again, under the tool being developed, will ask a company about their governance of their AI and whether or not they've done a proper risk assessment of the use of AI. So maybe some of those systems and decisions that may be more automated as opposed to having a human in the loop. So that evaluation tool is going to be talking about governance. And then also high-risk models. So are there certain models and being used that provide a higher risk to consumers in terms of consumer harm? So that's also part of the systems evaluation tool. And then the data going into the models. So regulators are very interested in understanding what data is going into various models and the validation of the data, and then also the third-party vendors that might be used, for services that a company is outsourcing to a third-party vendor, especially in the AI use. So regulators are concerned about, or they want to understand and know what data is being used and what vendors are being utilized in perhaps the underwriting process, the rating process, the claims process as well. So those are the kind of the four key areas of that AI systems evaluation tool. It's still being developed, so there's still certainly more work to be done. But if your company is using AI more and more, certainly this is an area of scrutiny that the regulators are going to be taking a closer look at. What will happen if that tool proceeds through the NAIC? Typically, what you're going to see is regulators working with companies to develop the tool, and then probably some type of a pilot program. So you may see states using the tool in some type of pilot program format. Ultimately, if it goes through the NAIC process and it is adopted, if there's a model or a tool adopted, most likely it will then fall into the market regulation handbook, and it'll be used as a resource for state insurance regulators to utilize when they're looking at AI activity at a particular company. So there's a lot more work to be done on that evaluation tool. There's also a little bit of discussion about whether or not, I mentioned Model X at the very beginning, whether or not there's a need for states to, and for the NAIC to develop perhaps some type of Model Act tied to AI. So right now, it's a bulletin and looking at AI evaluation tool right now. But there is also some discussion about exploring the development of a new model at the NAIC tied to AI. So those are the key items I wanted to make sure everybody is aware of in terms of the P&C activities at the NAIC. Again, if you're not familiar with the NAIC structure, that first slide, all of those activities are falling under the Property Casualty C Committee, and then what you see here, the Cybersecurity Incident Response Framework is under that Market Regulation and Consumer Affairs D Committee. And then the final two there are under the H Committee. So if you're trying to plug in to follow some of the activities at the NAIC, that's kind of where all of those items fall.